From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. Hey, check out last night's PBS NewsHour. There's a report I want you to see on childcare. They've put together a pretty comprehensive report. You and I have talked about this in the past. Yes, of course, in this big conversation about infrastructure and so-called human infrastructure, childcare is an important thing. But I was happy to see this in the report. The reason I'm recommending it, they share some voices who are concerned about farming kids out away from their parents. In other words, if you want to tackle this problem, part of the solution is allowing parents to raise their own damn kids. Not every single adult needs to be in the workforce. And this is not at all to take away from people reaching their full potential and being able to be their full selves, but there is something to be said, without sounding old-fashioned about it, there's something to be said for raising your own kids. So whoever the parents are, and it's nice to have a couple of parents. I'm not going to fall into any old expectations. Yeah, there are single parents. There are also double and triple parents, and there's extended family. And anything you want to be is okay with me. I'm not making any judgments. All I'm saying is that it should be an acceptable practice and even encouraged to raise your kids, to spend time with them. This report talks about the millions and millions of neurons, brain connections that are developed over the first few years of life, and how attention, physical, touching, attention, eye contact, that sort of thing. And this is all what we talked about in an earlier episode. All of that is so important. And yeah, great quality childcare with a good ratio of caregivers to children, I suppose, can provide that, but I can't quite imagine anything being the equal of a parent and a child being together. So anyway, I wanted to recommend that. And as long as you're at the PBS NewsHour, they had a pretty good show yesterday. They also did a section on crime, which everybody is doing because of all the hype about rising crime rates. Well, just a reminder, as you need to know, and you and I have talked about, crime rates generally are not going up. It's a specific kind of crime rate that's going up, and that is violent crime, and specifically gun crimes. So first of all, let's be clear about that. Even here's one criticism of last night's report. At one point, I think this was during the kind of weekly political commentary they do. One of the commentators used the generic term rising crime rate. And so, yeah, they fell into that. Reporters, you got to be more careful. There's no rising crime rate. There are specific crimes, specifically gun crimes. So please be careful how you frame that. Because if you just use the term rising crime rate like you did, I think this was Tamara Keith from NPR. She's a weekly commentator on the NewsHour. Yeah, you can't just say rising crime rate. That is completely falling into the hype. That's a Republican talking point, basically. You can't do that. You got to talk with more precision. So there's my criticism. The reason I'm bringing it up now, it's obvious to me that we need better language when it comes to the whole defund the police thing. I mean, that may sound painfully obvious to you. I've never been an apologist for the phrase defund the police. It's very simple to understand. If you claim you don't understand it, you're lying, and you're exploiting the language for your own political purposes. So I've never been an apologist for quote-unquote defund the police. But I will say this much. Let's try to be clear. If you and I are having a debate, and say you're more right-wingish, you think more and tougher cops are the answer to everything, let's start at least with an agreement. And by the way, this is just kind of a general tip. Every disagreement needs to begin with an agreement. So in this case, It's, okay, well, what do we both want? What do we share? What do we agree on? If you're going to debate with somebody, you got to set some basic standards of agreement. So in this case, we both want less crime and more safety. Can we at least agree on that? I acknowledge that that's what you want. You want less crime and more safety. Could you please acknowledge that that's what I want too? I want less crime and I want more safety. Well, as you can see, that's where we have a problem right out of the gate. The right-wingers of this country refuse to even acknowledge that much. They won't even give me that much. They won't even accept that assumption, that premise. Yes, Charles Brissell wants more safety and less crime. No, they say of people like us, the defund the policers, they think, I guess, or at least they say to their constituents, these people, these lefties, they want more crime. They want you to be less safe. Now, that's just ridiculous. Nobody, and I mean nobody in this entire world wants you to be less safe. Nobody wants more crime. That's just ridiculous on its face. So, can we at the very least, all of us agree we want more safety, we want less crime? All of us. Okay. Once you can do that, then you can actually have a conversation. Because I believe that giving more freedom to cops, keeping qualified immunity, allowing them more freedom to be tough and use harsh methods and increasing their numbers, I believe, and I think I can make a pretty good case, that that's going to cause more harm than good. It's going to cause people to be less safe, and it's not going to reduce crime. And even if it does reduce crime, remember you and I talked about this recent study just a few days ago. Whatever crime it does reduce, these kind of tougher measures and more cops, it results in more prosecution of petty crime and winds up just being kind of harassment, mostly of people of color. So you can actually have a conversation and you can use data and research facts to try to make your arguments. Now, the other side will say, it's a very simple argument, kind of a common sense. It sort of sounds good. More cops, the tougher they are, the more freedom they have, the more they can crack down on crime. Well, that's just a statement. You didn't prove anything just by saying that. Show me the data. Show me where that works. If you can convince me that that works, well then, all right, that'll continue our conversation. I'll have to concede maybe a point or two to you. So if you're someone who, like me, believes in the basic defund the police philosophy, and you're having a hard time having this conversation with anybody, try to start there. Look, I want less crime. I want more safety. Do you? Can we agree on that? And if you can convince your worthy opponent to at least agree on that premise, then you got a starting point. Anyway, just on my mind because of last night's pretty good PBS NewsHour with a couple of exceptions I've already mentioned. So check that out. Let's do how about a quote of the day from our pal Bernie Sanders? I should do this every day. I'm just going to read one of his posts. Reading now, Bernie Sanders' words. Some of my colleagues have said that a $6 trillion reconciliation package is expensive, or that we cannot afford to spend that kind of money. I disagree. Let's start by recognizing where we are in this very moment. We have infrastructure all over this country, our roads, our bridges, our water treatment facilities, that is essentially collapsing. We need massive amounts of affordable and low-income housing to be built in state after state. We have a child care system that is a disaster. We are still the only major country on the planet that does not guarantee paid leave for all its workers. We have new moms who give birth, and days later they have to be back at work with virtually no time to spend with their baby. We have kids graduating high school who cannot afford to go to college or are graduating college and are deeply, deeply in debt. On top of all that, how do we continue to ignore the destructive threat of climate change, which is ravaging this country and the entire world? What I am proposing is a budget which meets this moment and which finally meets the needs of working families. There's our Bernie Sanders quote of the day. Maybe I'll make that a regular thing. Nobody says it better than Bernie. And he mentions childcare, as we just talked about. Yeah, that's kind of my fundamental problem with the whole human infrastructure thing. Of course I'm for it, but I'm not for the idea, which I've already mentioned, that every single adult, especially every single parent, has to be out working 8 hours a day. Everybody talking infrastructure, even Joe and Bernie and the people who want this big package, and I do too, that's where I part with them. They kind of make this assumption that it's all about the economy. We got to get everybody out there being productive and then more people consuming and consuming and consuming. That is not at all what we need. We need the opposite of that. We need less production, much less consumption. We need to retract the economy, not grow it. So yeah, I absolutely want safe bridges and roads, and I want health care and elder care and child care, and I want all of these things, of course. Yes, I understand what they mean by human infrastructure and regular physical infrastructure. Sure, I want to live in a safe, modern world. But this underlying assumption that it's all about growth and all of this is going to serve an economy that continues to grow and we continue to use resources, and they can toss in all the climate change language they want, and they can even do relatively good things regarding climate change, renewable energy resources, all that, so-called green jobs. That all sounds nice, and it'll slow us down just a little bit at the pace at which we're destroying the planet. But in the end, economic growth and reversing our direction regarding climate change are not compatible. They're not compatible. So even Bernie loses me on that. But everything else makes sense. We should be safe. I'll tell you the other place where Bernie loses me a little bit. And I don't blame him for this necessarily. I mean, it's all about the United States. I consider myself more of a world citizen. All of these goals have to be more global in nature. Sure, I want safety and health for myself, for my family, for everyone in the country, but for everyone on the planet. And unless you're talking globally, you're still, whether you know it or not, you are upholding a system where rich nations exploit poor nations, where the global North exploits the global South. I'm no longer interested in hearing about this great life we can have if it doesn't include everybody. I mean, look at the vaccine, a perfect example. There are some pockets around the world, well, more than pockets, great swaths of people around the world who have not yet had access to the vaccine. These tiny single-digit percentages of people in most countries who have been vaccinated. And at the pace we're going now, it's going to take literally years. And in that time, new strains will have developed. So it's high time that we think more globally about these solutions. Speaking of the pandemic, my God, we told you right here, you and I knew it. All these summer camps, apparently the virus is starting to rage through kids' summer camps. And now, just in a matter of weeks, schools are going to reopen. And there's a mixed bag. A lot of school districts around the country are saying no masks required. Some of them are, some of them partial. I just saw another expert interviewed today. It's always the same. Well, Localities need to make their own decisions, local school districts and local municipalities. Just, give us a recommendation. Just give it to us straight. Don't give me all this runaround. Schools, absolutely. Universal masks. I don't know how you come to any other decision. And I think you should allow for a hybrid learning for those who want to do it. I mean, it's always been there for quite a lot of students. There have always been at-home options and remote learning options, not for everyone. But I think those options should be expanded for anybody who wants it. Not just those who can afford it, not just those who are blessed with a really nice Wi-Fi connection and access to the equipment. I think this should be a permanent change coming out of the pandemic. I think remote learning should be an option for anyone who wants it. Well, let's see. We're jumping around a little bit today. I saw a post from an acquaintance, not really a friend. It said, quote, "I used to post about drought, fires, and calamity. These things will happen, but it's about living for today." Oh, Jesus. Keep your little homespun philosophy to yourself. So you used to post about drought, fires, and calamity. So you used to care about these things, but you decided not to care anymore? Or maybe you decided your posting about them didn't make any difference, didn't help anything. I don't know. You could be right about that. But these things will happen? See, when you write little pithy statements like this, there's so much to read into the pith. Fewer words doesn't make your statement any more concise. In fact, it makes it more complicated. It makes it more open for interpretation. So these things will happen. So droughts just happen? You've decided that climate change has nothing to do with droughts anymore? And the effect of drought, people who suffer. Who suffers from droughts, fires, and calamity? The rich people on the hill or the poor people down at the bottom? I mean, we know who suffers the most. So even if quote-unquote things happen, even if you can just attribute them all to just nature, which you can't, but even if you did, even if I give you that, the people who are hurt the most are the people who are the most vulnerable, and they are vulnerable because of nature? No, not nature. They're vulnerable because of decisions we make, political, socio-economic decisions. So by you saying these things will happen, yeah, that is loaded. And, you don't care about calamity anymore. Okay. It's about living for today. Well, aren't you privileged? I used to post about drought, fires, and calamity. These things will happen, but it's about living for today. God, I can't tell you how much I hate little pithy statements like that, and how thoughtless they are, and how careless they are, and how uncaring they are, and how privileged they are, completely relinquishing any kind of idea that we are responsible for each other in any way whatsoever. No, just live for today with whatever privileges I have. Man, bad, bad, bad. If you find yourself posting little pithy stuff like that, you need to think twice, man. Well, it's, let's see. Oh, the Bucks are in town, my Milwaukee Bucks. Having fun with that. I didn't mention it yesterday, but of course Sunday night was the big victory in Game 3, so that was a good time. I've got a view of Fiserv Forum out my window, so I saw the fireworks after the game, and we're enjoying this quite a lot here in Milwaukee. The city looks pretty good on national TV. Nice to see that, get a little love. So that's happening. Good for us. Nice to be a part of that. It's just good, clean fun for everybody. Oh, also over the weekend, didn't mention this yesterday. Richard Branson can go screw himself. That is just billionaire porn as far as I'm concerned. His little joyride up just short of space. Just high enough to get weightless, but not. That was the other thing. He didn't have the guts to go to the full 62 miles. That's the sort of the internationally agreed line where space begins. I guess he went maybe 50, just high enough to be weightless. You can't really see the globe from that height. You can barely see the curvature of the Earth from that height. So he takes 3 of his rich friends with him, and it's just disgusting. I was just disgusted by the whole thing. You know, as a kid with the Apollo program and landing on the moon, and then everything after that, the space shuttles and the Mars probe, everything, I've been okay with that. I've been for that. Science for science sake, exploration just for the sake of exploration, just to advance knowledge, you know, I'm fine with that. I was never in the camp that said, oh no, we have too many problems here on Earth. Let's spend the money here and not spend the money there. Depending on who was making the argument, I might have swayed one way or the other over the years. Oh yeah, they make a pretty good point. Maybe I did feel a little bit of that occasionally. But generally speaking, and especially now in hindsight, there's plenty of money. We got plenty of money to do what we need. And the advancement of science and exploration and knowledge is important just because. That's my firm belief. But Branson and Bezos and Musk and these damn billionaires creating their own little space race, that ain't science. That's not advancement. Creating space tourism, $250,000 a pop to go on Branson's little joyride, to like $1 million if you want to do the Bezos thing right up into actual space. This whole idea of creating pods up there where you can go and take a big old vacation. You can just orbit the Earth for as long as you want, or even live up there, or even the crazy notion of living on Mars. Here's where I draw the line. There is just no way I'm going to get behind any of this. Now I do come down to nope. Spend the money right damn here. It's been shown over and over and over. People run the numbers. These damn billionaires have enough money in their pockets right now today to basically solve every problem we have. They can solve climate change. They can provide universal health care. They can end poverty and hunger across the globe if they wanted to. So just take their damn money. Just take it. I don't care. If you put it to a vote right now, it would pass at about a 90% clip, especially if you put the vote worldwide. I was talking earlier about being global. Good, freedom-loving, democratic people, small d Democrats, around the globe would say, yeah, I'm okay. Take all their money. You can leave them each $100 million. You know what? I think they're going to be okay. But all their billions, their hundreds of billions, take it. Just take it. And if we can get democracy to work, we can spend it. We'll spend it, right? Yeah, just take it from them. Speaking of democracy, here's another little quote of the day. Robert Reich, former labor secretary under Bill Clinton, he's become more and more liberal over the decades since he's been in office. And he also posts daily, at least, sometimes more than that. Here's what he said recently. Senate Democrats represent 43 million more Americans than Senate Republicans. But just 41 Senate Republicans, representing only 21% of America, are blocking the For the People Act, supported by 68% of Americans. And they're blocking a $15 an hour minimum wage, supported by 67% of Americans. End the filibuster now. Yeah, Robert Reich is exactly right. These numbers are completely skewed. Senate Republicans, representing only 21% of America, are sabotaging, blocking everything we need done by Congress. And we do need these things done by Congress. It's the only mechanism available to us. Yes, we can make changes in our personal lives and we can organize among ourselves, and there are many great things we can do. But there are particular things that only the federal government can do. And my bottom line is, and forever remains, all about democracy. It's all about democracy. And the only way we regain democracy in this country, which currently we haven't got a handle on, we have to end the filibuster. We have to end gerrymandering. We have to guarantee free and fair elections. If we do those three things, if we end the filibuster, if we end gerrymandering, if we guarantee free and fair elections, democracy will take care of the rest. I have faith in us. Believe it or not. There's no reason to be afraid of democracy. I will take my chances with free and fair elections because I believe down to my bones that under free and fair elections, the Republican Party will cease to exist. All the big roadblocks to progress will be eliminated. Now, something called the Republican Party, that might survive afterwards, but it would no longer reflect the current Republican Party. It might accurately reflect whatever sort of the right edge of the political spectrum is, but not these radical off-the-cliffers, the Republican Party of today, which I call fascist and white nationalist and racist, and of course they are, and they're QAnon, and they're anti-democratic. They're every bad word you can call them. That party would not exist with free and fair elections. They would be a radical fringe way over there. We'd have to keep our eye on them, but they would generally be harmless. They certainly wouldn't be controlling the Congress of the United States. They're controlling an entire branch of government. For that matter, they're controlling much of the judiciary as well. End the filibuster, end gerrymandering, guarantee free and fair elections. From that point forward, I'll take my chances with straight democracy, and I know that we'd be in pretty fair shape. And we might actually even make progress toward the really big issues. I mean, the really big ones. Climate crisis, racial inequality, income inequality. Hey, you may call me a dreamer. Ooh, but I'm not the only one. Yeah, democracy, man. We could do it. We can do it. Oh, let's see. Have we got any more time left today, or are we looking at the clock here? I guess that's about it. All right, time to say goodbye to you for today. Let me take a moment to remind you, you can hear this episode and all episodes at charlesburcell.com or wherever you find your podcasts. If you go out to your favorite platform, search Charles Burcell or Charles Burcell Presents. Thanks to our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio, riverwestradio.com. Reach out and say hello on social media. You can like, follow, and contact on Facebook and Twitter. Peter Donalds writes and performs our theme song. There it is. That's the log. I love you. I'm Charles Burcell.